Welcome to Man, Woman, God. My name's Greg and I'll be your host for this evening, and I'm with Reverend Howard Langmead from St. Paul's Anglican Church in North Caulfield. Reverend Howard, welcome to the show.
Thanks, good to be here, Greg.
Wonderful to have you. Reverend, you've got an amazing ministry which we'll get to.
I like yours too.
But just tell me, how did you come to God? How did you come to be a Christian?
I blame my parents, really. My parents, I was brought up in a Christian family. My parents were Salvation Army officers. In fact, they did missionary work for the Salvation Army. And when I was born, they were working in Hong Kong. They ran an orphanage. And so I was born while they were there. First 3 years of my life in a Chinese orphanage. It doesn't get much worse than that.
Wow. What sort of memories do you have of that? Do you have any memory of it? Or?
None.
None at all?
Well, I was 3, so I have this vague memory. You know, they tell me I spoke Cantonese fluently, but goodness knows where that's gone in my brain. Yeah.
So then to Australia? Back to Australia?
back to Melbourne. And apart from a few years in an orphanage in Hong Kong, I've lived in Melbourne all my life.
So schooled in Melbourne?
Schooled in Melbourne, primary school, secondary school, university, high school. Yeah,
okay. So how did you then come to dedicate your life to God as such?
In simple words, I think he wanted me to do it. I used
but was there like a defining moment or something?
Yeah.
The clouds parted?
Yeah. Look, as a teenager, I was a Christian teenager, so I was involved in the ISCF group at school. I was leading it. But I was checking out really a whole lot of wide range of things, criticisms of Christianity, as well as reading some Christian writers. I really wanted to check out, do I believe the Bible? Did Jesus really come alive again, and is he around now, or is it a psychological trick? That was really bugging me when I was about 17, 18, last couple of years of school. Right. And in my reading of that, I became quite convinced about the reality of Jesus. I got quite on fire with it for a teenage guy. I thought, yeah. So it wasn't a new faith, but it was checking out and taking on for myself what I'd been brought up to believe.
Well, again, was there like a defining moment? I mean, you did a lot of reading, but was there anything tangible other than the reading?
Not at that stage. I'd been living as a Christian anyway, so it wasn't a change of lifestyle. I had very few really bad habits that I gave up, and the few that I had I probably didn't give up at that stage. So there was nothing tangible in that except a greater confidence.
Right.
And what changed in me was a confidence of basically saying, I'm a Christian. I believe this stuff. I think Jesus is awesome. He's alive.
Wonderful.
And so it's just a bit more confidence, which grew over that particular year.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a family?
I do.
You're married?
I am married. I got a wife. I married when I was 20 and had a marriage in which I had 3 children, and that marriage ended, which was a very painful thing for me and for the others involved. For a few years, I was a single parent. My children were backwards and forwards between me and my former wife, and then were staying with me. And that was, at the time, I thought it was really tough as a man having 3 kids, and I was in ministry at the time, that close to giving up ministry, but I had some really good support from some Christian friends.
Yeah.
But I look back on my life now, and those few years, they were the making of me. That gave me a sense of who I am.
Yeah.
Gave me a really good relationship with my kids. So I've remarried Penny, and I haven't had more children with Penny. But the 3 children I have, who are now young adults, I've got a great relationship with them.
Fantastic. Wonderful. So, as I mentioned at the start, you have an amazing ministry to do with laughter in particular. You take laughter workshops.
Yeah.
How did all that begin? Where did that start? Tell us the story.
All right. It started, I've always enjoyed humour. I had a guy working with me in the church I was at where we were doing skit comedy skits as part of the worship services. And this guy, he was an actor, Grant Broadbent-Smith. He was a very funny guy, and I was doing most of the writing. And I decided to do a comedy writing course for this. As part of the comedy writing course, I was mixing with a group of people. I was the only Christian in the group, and they got us writing our life story and then turning that into comedy. And my life story was being a Christian. It was also having been through a marriage breakup. It was about being a single parent, writing and then turning that into comedy. Then the thing was, and this is going back about 20 years or so, it was there are a lot of pubs in Melbourne that used to have open mic. So ring up a pub, talk your way in and get a gig and practice this material. So that's what I did.
So is that like a comedy karaoke type thing, where you just go up there and...
Thank you for putting it like that. But I saw it as a little bit more upmarket than karaoke, but basically, yes, that's it. It was comedy open mic. And I went to Star and Garter Hotel in South Melbourne. Didn't tell them I was a minister, just told them, if you get the guy laughing on the phone, he'd give you a gig, 6 minutes. And I negotiated with the person who was coaching me in comedy, that I didn't want to do too much religious comedy. And he said, look, he wasn't a Christian. He said, if you hide who you are, the audience will know there's something wrong. Best advice I ever got. So I negotiated. I thought the first few minutes of my comedy, I did my I'm a man stuff.
But hang on, just before you go there, you obviously had him laughing on the phone.
Yeah.
So how did you do that?
I just gave a bit of routine about being a single dad and about my kids, some funny stories about my kids, and got him laughing. So I said, my name's Howard, blah, blah, I'm this, I'm that, got him laughing. He said, yeah, we'll give you a gig. So I get up, I do this routine. The first few minutes is about being a single dad, about my kids, coping with that, men on their own. Can you give us an example of, I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you... well, you just have actually. I'm thinking, this is going back so long. What was in my earliest routine? I can't remember.
I find that amazing that you took that period in your life where you were a single dad and used it for the purpose of having people laugh and make something of that.
It's not all that unusual. So many comedians use their angst, their pain, their anger, their disappointments and turn it into comedy.
Yeah, right.
Human tragedy makes great comedy. So I would go through it in the comedy, and I'd do things about my kids. One of my daughters complained to the school about my cooking. And so I did this routine about that, and the end result was she had to cook. So yeah, just did a routine about that. Halfway through the gig, I just said, I've got a day job. I'm a priest. And the pub broke up. It was the funniest line of the night. And it threw me, because that wasn't meant to be a joke line. That was an introduction to a joke, and they just laughed and laughed.
Right. So it caught you unawares.
Yeah. And now I told them my joke lines about the bishop and about my church, and they just thought I was putting on an act. And I was just in jeans and t-shirt in the pub late at night, and they just thought it was a guy. And as I'm going off the stage, the MC comes on. He says, "Are you really a priest?" I said, "Yes." He said the F word.
Oh, okay.
Not many people say that when I say, well, actually,
fruit.
Some people say
fruit.
that. Yeah, fruit. He says, "Are you a priest?" Fruit. And so he goes to the microphone and says, "That man really is a priest." You could hear a pin drop. Something that wasn't funny. So I sort of slunk to the back of the bar.
Just before we go to what happened after that, we need to go to a break, Reverend Howard. Sorry, but we'll be back shortly. We'll be back with Reverend Howard in a moment. Welcome back to Man, Woman, God. I'm with Reverend Howard Langmead. Reverend Howard, you're just on the verge of discovering a new ministry.
I didn't know it was a ministry. I thought I was escaping from the church and having some fun doing a bit of stand-up.
Right.
The first gig got them laughing, and I kept hanging around. Not a cent in it, of course. You get paid by beer in those places. If you're on stage, they give you a glass of beer. Right. Actually, I'm not a beer drinker. I'll stick with the wine. So a glass of wine. But what happened was, particularly as my comedy was about me as a man, as a single dad, but also about me as a minister, a bit about faith, I'd find when I finished my routine and sat down, that there would always be someone to come up. And a lot of guys came up and wanted to talk to me about being men with children or men without children. A lot of guys who didn't have access to their kids or only on weekends. And I was just surprised by the ministry that came, and others who wanted to talk about the number of ex-Christians hanging out in pub comedy joints at night. And there's a few people say, wow, I thought I was getting away from God, and here you are. And they just want to talk.
Fantastic.
Also, I got a lot of flack from people that had been beaten at school by a Catholic priest or something, and thought they'd take it out on me and all of those. And once they've had a few drinks. But I then realised that I was meeting people in the pub that I would never meet in the church, in an Anglican church. And I enjoyed the stand-up, which, by the way, didn't always work brilliantly. Sometimes I just died on stage. Other times it really kicked, didn't matter. But I enjoyed just hanging out in the pubs, talking to people, making friends.
At the coalface.
Yeah, and at that stage there were quite a few pubs in Melbourne. I just did the circuit and getting to know a whole lot of other try-hard comedians like me who were doing this circuit too, and I made a lot of friends among the people that I saw night after night.
So at that point, did you think, this is great, it's a couple of nights of good fun and whatever. What was your outlook at that time? Did you think God was taking you somewhere with all this?
I did sort of wake up that God was doing something. That was how I spun it. God's doing something here. I'm loving it. It can go somewhere. Problem is, being a full-time minister in the church and hanging out in pubs wasn't working. Something's got to give, so it was the church.
Yeah. Okay.
And I contacted the bishop and said, I want a part-time job in the church because I'm hanging out in pubs. He said that's where he spends his free time too. So I then got a half-time position, 0.6 position in a church in West Brunswick, and I had more time then to do comedy, and it sort of took off in a funny way. I did a little bit of radio, ABC radio, 3AK I was on for years, and did some stuff on ABC radio. But also then Grant and I decided to do something at a comedy festival, which is, when I look back, was just, I don't know what made us think we could do it, but it worked. And I had a bigger vision. We used St Paul's Cathedral in the city, and I went to the dean of the cathedral and said, we want to use St Paul's Cathedral for a comedy festival event. And we didn't run the whole festival, we just did 4 or 5 shows over a long weekend.
Sure.
And we said it'll be a free show with donations afterwards, and we packed the cathedral.
And donations?
And donations.
You made money?
Flooded in, and
really?
we made money.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And part of that was because I think we had this shtick, the priest who does comedy, and comedy at St Paul's Cathedral. And in the press releases of the comedy festival, they sort of featured this a bit, so I got quite a few radio interviews, a couple of television interviews, and people just flooded in. It was hilarious because I was probably the least experienced comedian in the comedy festival, but we just drew a crowd.
Fantastic.
And then, so over 9 years, I had about 7 shows in Melbourne Comedy Festival. Only one of them was a solo show. I got a couple of other Christian comedians.
Yeah, right.
With new material, I figured about 20 minutes was about as much as I could do of strong new material.
That's a lot of time.
And sometimes that was hard work. So I found actually in the end that I enjoyed promoting it more and doing the front of it and getting a couple of other Christian comedians in to do their stuff.
Sure.
But it was good fun. I loved it.
Fantastic. The laughter workshops, so how did they develop?
Well, this has got to cross the mind of all comedians at some point. What makes people laugh? But also for me as a Christian minister, and a Christian minister strongly into healing and believing that God heals and our bodies are magnificently made, it's what impact does laughter have on a body? And I started reading about it. I joined the International Society of Humour Studies. I went to a conference in Denmark to study laughter. The International Society of Humour Studies. I went to the conference in Denmark. Again, to the bishop, I want to go to a professional conference in Denmark to study laughter. And I was looking at a whole lot of stuff. Laughter studies were big in the late 20th century in terms of the stuff about what makes people laugh, what's the health benefits of laughter. And the laughter clubs of India, Dr. Cauchi had started these laughter clubs in India, and that was just part of it. And so I looked at what he was doing. I looked at what was coming out of America in terms of laughter and health, and I just started exploring laughter. I actually met Dr. Cauchi, went to a couple of his workshops, got qualified by him as a trainer for the laughter clubs, but started running these workshops. And the workshops are basically getting people laughing, and during it, slotting in some of the health benefits of laughter, which are, of course, releases endorphins, boosts the immune system, gets your body more oxygenated, makes you think clearly, makes you feel more positive.
Well, you always feel fantastic after you've had a good belly laugh, always.
Yeah, and you feel good because your body is working well. You're actually releasing different sort of chemicals in the body. The way you think, and this is one of the marvellous things God has done, the way you think affects what chemicals are released, and that affects how your whole body works. But if you're depressed and upset, you're more likely to get a cold, to get run down.
Of course.
And
your defences are down.
Yeah, and the opposite is true. If you stay laughter, you stay positive, you find that you've got health.
So there's no doubt in your mind God has a sense of humour?
If he doesn't, I'm in big trouble.
Well, have you thought about that? Did you do any did you interrogate God about humour, about laughter?
Yeah, I asked him for a joke or two,
And
he gave me some. And so I looked in the Bible for everything I find about laughter, and I looked in the Bible for things for humour in the Bible. Then I found I wasn't the only person that had done that. That there is a verse in the Bible that says God who sits above the heavens laughs. In Psalms 2. The trouble is, if you look at what the next bit is, he's laughing in derision at those who think they can touch the Lord's anointed. But for me, that means God laughs. It's his sovereignty. People think they can run around and influence what God is doing, and God just goes, you think you're in charge? So to me, laughter is the sovereignty of God.
Right.
And to laugh is to trust in God. When stuff's happening, we can just laugh.
I love that. Laughter is the sovereignty of God. Excellent.
You can have
Wonderful.
that. Not many theologians would have said it before me.
Wonderful. Now, on that note, we need to go on a break.
Okay.
But we'll be back with more. We're with Reverend Howard Langmead from St. Paul's Anglican Church in North Caulfield. We're going to take a break and we'll be back for more laughs. You're watching Man, Woman, God, and we're having a laugh with Reverend Howard. Reverend, the laughter workshops, what sort of people attend these workshops? Why?
Some of them very unsuspecting. They're there because their bosses said go. I get invited by corporate groups sometimes, or organisations having a conference of some sort and they want a lighter section, so they'll put a laughter workshop in.
Okay.
I get invited by welfare groups and organisations, people putting on health and well-being days, and they get all these strange new age people in, and along with it they'll get the Reverend along with a laughter workshop.
Right.
So and so my aim, first of all, I'm often working with people who don't know why they're there, and so I've got to put them at their ease, get them laughing, and often despite their own resistance. And for me, for some reason, I love the challenge of people looking at me saying, "Make me laugh." Can I show you how I make them laugh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So at the beginning of a laughter workshop, and everyone watching can do the same. What I want you to sit comfortably, and I want you to breathe in deeply through your nose and out your mouth. One more time, breathe in and out. And this time, as you breathe out, say ha, 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 as long as you can, and just shake your shoulders a bit. Okay, so breathe in and ha, 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 ha. And you get a group of people doing that, and it just gets them laughing. And we do a whole lot of other exercises.
It's infectious.
It is infectious, and that's called a simulated laugh. Has the same effect in the body as a natural laugh. And so we then do a lot of simulated laughter activities, and I tell them all the health benefits of laughter. And we spend
and it really, a simulated laugh has the same benefits.
Exactly
physiologically.
Right. Exactly right.
Amazing.
Yeah, and smiling has the same effect. If you choose to smile, it actually changes the way your brain works.
Wow.
So they've done.
There's a real science behind this.
Real science.
Yeah.
It's not just science, it's real science.
science.
Real science behind this, and it works.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so I get invited to all of these groups to run these laughter workshops. Occasionally, I'm asked not to mention the fact that I'm a Christian minister. A lot of the government groups are very scared of that, and I can fit that bill. Other times I say, tell them what you do as your day job. And sometimes in crowds like that, they're really interested in the fact that for me, this is part of my faith, that I believe God laughs.
So you do a series of exercises like that, and you build to, I don't know, I guess you get to some point somewhere in the workshop. And where does it end? Like what's the end objective or the end goal of these workshops?
The end goal is to have had people enjoying themselves so much, realising that they can choose to laugh. Two things. One is to learn that they can choose to laugh.
Oh, that's an interesting
Breathe in and go.
idea. Yeah.
You can laugh by choice. You don't need someone to make you laugh. It's your choice. And that laughter is really healthy. Or from a Christian context, that actually is what God wants us to do. God has made us so that our bodies work better when we laugh. A cheerful heart is like a good medicine. It's in the Bible, Proverbs 17:22. And so laughter is the best medicine. Wasn't made up by the Reader's Digest. It's in the Bible.
The Reader's Digest,
the laughter.
You'd always go straight to laughter, the best medicine. Well, it is. It is a wonderful medicine, a wonderful tonic.
So a cheerful heart is like a good medicine. That's God's wisdom.
Right.
And it is like a medicine. It does create. So at the end of the a laughter workshop, the aim is to have people laughing and wanting to go away, continuing to laugh. I get
choosing to laugh.
I get text messages and emails from people saying, I've been laughing for the last 2 days since your workshop.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so it encourages people to laugh for health.
So is there a place for laughter and comedy in church?
Absolutely. Try my church. St. Paul's Anglican Church, North Caulfield, 10:15 every Sunday. And we, look, my sermons are not laugh a minute. I'm a serious preacher. But what I've learned, my preaching has changed so much since I've been doing comedy in pubs. I now use that style, as in when I'm preaching to people, my expectation is that they respond. Like in comedy, if you say a joke and no one laughs, you don't move on. You've got to needle the audience. You've got to get them to respond. And so in preaching, I'm saying something, I work for response.
Okay.
And I play off people's faces and their responses. So comedy has changed my preaching, and it's deepened my understanding of communication. But I realised that laughter and joy are part of that.
Sure.
And there's a lot of joy in our church. But I'm not the only one. A lot of preachers will use laughter. It's been an ancient technique. Some of the old preachers in the early 20th century always started their sermon with a joke.
Yeah, amazing.
So humour's often been used. When I studied humour in the church, one of the strange things I discovered was the Greek Orthodox Church back in the Middle Ages used to have a laughter day, and it was Monday after Easter Sunday. And Greek Orthodox, they do Easter in a fairly formal style.
They do.
Greek Orthodox in the Middle Ages, this is high formal Christianity.
Yes.
But on Monday, to release all the tension, the priests and the people in the congregation would gather back in the sanctuary area on the Monday, and they would all take it in turns to tell funny anecdotes and jokes and laugh. And so it was laughter day in the church, and the rationale was because God had played a joke on Satan in the resurrection. And that may sound blasphemous, but when it says a joke, the elements of a joke is that it is usually surprising, it brings laughter and a lot of joy.
Right.
And nothing is more surprising nor more joyous than the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Of course.
So I love that as God's big joke against Satan. That
I see the
Jesus was
logic behind
brought back to life.
Yeah, wonderful.
So, it's
wonderful. Let me ask you this question. Do you have a favourite joke? Or a joke you could share with us now to take us out? Because we're almost at the end of our time.
Okay, I've got a riddle for you. This isn't something I use in my room. It's my favourite riddle, and I got it from my daughter years ago. And I've often thought, if I was a Greek Orthodox priest, what joke would I tell on Easter Monday?
On Monday.
And here's my joke. Greg, what did the fish say when he swam into a brick wall?
What did the fish say when he swam into a brick wall? I have no idea.
Damn! Which I figure is a very Christian joke, because fish, of course, is a symbol of Christians.
Yes.
And he hit a brick wall, we won't even get what the word damn means for Christians. But I think it's a very Christian joke.
Wonderful, wonderful. So if people are interested in these workshops or having you develop a workshop or, participate in one of these events that you put on, can they
Google Howard Langmead.
Google Howard Langmead.
Apparently, I haven't tried this wrong, but if you Google the word the word laughter, God and image, you get a photo of me.
Oh, really?
Someone told me that once. Yeah. But now, Google Howard Langmead or Google Laughter Workshops, send me an email.
Of course. Or viewers can always contact manwomangod.org.
Oh, that too, yes.
Yes, and we'll put them in touch with yourself.
Yeah.
Reverend, it's been an absolute laugh a minute to have you on the show.
I've enjoyed it. Thanks.
Very much appreciate it. And thank you very much, and hope to see you again real soon.
Look forward to it.
Thanks for watching Man, Woman, God. My name's Greg. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.